Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awake in the World. It is the 13th day of September in the year of, oh my God, 2021. 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 to 7 years, right here on the Awake in the World group page. So, hello. Sorry. How is everyone this evening? It's good to see you. It's good to see myself in the screen and realize that I look far younger than I feel. I've really got no complaints. I saw, oh, there's Louisa. I saw that bug. Yes, Doom. And yeah, we're gonna get into this. As you can see by my color, we had gone kayaking a couple of times here, and we're actually planning to get out tomorrow morning, or no, Wednesday, and go kayaking tomorrow. Will be quite nice enough. Um, it's been an interesting go with Kelly and her course. I know that she's eternally grateful to have me right here to be able to deal with her issues and make sure she gets through the technological phase of it. And that can be difficult when you're trying to pick up new things. The biggest block, of course, to absorbing anything new is our own fear. And, that's what I've been working with Kelly lately is really starting to let go of her fear, let go of comparing herself to other people in the classes who are far younger and have had technology their whole lives, and to realize that it's just between her and herself, literally. And this is really the same with all of our lives, whether writ small or writ large. And that's part of the discussion tonight. Interesting how I always seem to be able to bring one thing around to another. Hey, you'd almost think I had planned it in some strange way. Of course, that would indicate no, I'm not even going to go into that. Let's go back to where we should be at. So, first of all, of course, realize that I love you, that all of creation loves you, that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, but everything is right with you, and everything is perfect right now in the opportunity it gives you in terms of your own individualized apparent existence and as it applies to every multiplication of you, whether it's at a family level or at a community level or at a world level. We are all truly loved. This whole creation is based out of a creator in love with itself, and we are that divine creator. There is no harm. There is no foul. There is no rejection from that divine source of love because you are that divine source of love itself. Now, that being said, we're going to take what appears to be a complete 180-degree turn and head straight down into the deep darkness. And there's a necessary reason for this, and I really have to make it clear. I don't intend to make anybody afraid, because if you are capable of being afraid, then you should already be afraid. And I don't agree personally about being afraid for myself. I'm a long time past that. But I do have concern for every single being around me. And the reason I have that concern is because despite that higher point of view, I still am here in a physical form. I still have an egoic sense of self. And I have deep compassion for the whole species. And we simply don't need to do this. But we seem bent on it. So we have to talk about it a little bit. We have to come to some realizations. We have to face the music. And we have to get a plan together. Because it's no longer about what's coming, whether it's coming or not. It's simply about what we're going to do about it. So there's a few glaring facts that we need to get out into the open, and I have suggestions on how we need to deal with it, both in terms of our own being, because personally, if you don't stay on top of things, it can literally make you sick to your gut. And I apologize if it leaves anyone not sleeping well. That's not the point. The point is, as always, to try to illuminate a possible path forward and invite people to make their own choice. So there's a couple things that I've witnessed recently, and I really think we need to clear a little bit of this up. So I just want to have a little discussion about carbon sinks, and people are going to say, well, what does that have to do with spirituality? Well, you know what? It's going to be the level of awakening that you possess, the in touchedness with the truth of your own being, your own level of spirituality that's going to determine a lot, not only for yourself, but for everybody around you. And you got to know from the depths of my heart, I can't say it enough. I am not a person who runs away from anything. I'm not a person who is fearful of anything. As a matter of fact, I had a reputation for being unnaturally calm and unwavering in the middle of a firefight, as if I was sitting there having tea with a good friend. So I come to you with this level of consternation of being should be an indication of how serious this is to me. And that out of a deep love and caring and compassion for every single person here on this planet today, I have to say this. I really do. So I want to cover off a few things. One, and this is why this is so important when it comes to our spirituality and our consciousness. And realistically, David Suzuki became fully aware of this himself for the first time in 2012 when he realized that the last 30 years had essentially been a huge waste of time and energy. Imagine that, putting 30 years into something and realize as he ultimately realized, and I can post the article to you if you want to see it, that the only thing that happened is they managed to stave off things from happening. But all the things that they tried to fight against happening ended up occurring anyways. All the projects went through eventually, all the pipelines went through eventually, all the things happened eventually, one way or the other. Once again, proving that fighting up against anything doesn't really do any good at all. It just kind of lends it energy. And what it really does is pull us away from reality. Pull us away from the present moment where we need to be paying very close attention. So as of, first of all, we're talking here a little bit about the IPCC climate report. And there needs to be an understanding on how that reporting system works. So there are actually 3 reports, and the general public is pretty much only aware of the one report, although very savvy media outlets and a number of people involved have released the other parts of the report that are due in the UN climate talks in the early spring of 2022. And this particular report that is being featured in the news, this is the report that it is a very conservative report. And the reason it's a very conservative report is not only does this report have to be vetted, verified, and approved by every one of the over 200 different contributing agencies who all work independently of each other, then it also has to be vetted and approved by all the member country governments. And this is the report that it's basically the politician's guidebook. It goes to the governments of the world. So this report itself is very conservative in nature. And what this report says, amongst other things, is that the carbon sinks on the planet, those things which take care of the baseline of carbon absorption are really have already switched over in many cases or are nearly or nearing the edge of switching over. So, for example, the rainforests of our planet became a net source of carbon dioxide for the first time in recorded history in 2017, September, with a net gain of 436 million tons of CO2 being added by the rainforest area, the biomass, that land sink, instead of absorbing anything. And the reason, of course, has been the massive deforestation, which 4 years later has not stopped. The Arctic permafrost and peat bog sinks have also reversed as of 2020 and are now emitters rather than absorbers. The oceans and it is mostly, believe this or not, you can do the research for yourself, but it is plankton that is one of the most critical reasons why the oceans act as one of our largest carbon dioxide sinks. And that plankton has an intimate connection with whales. Do I really need to go much further? I'm sure you're already kind of understanding. Oops. The oceans themselves, the plankton that is available because of these destructive blooms that are happening due to the amount of pollution, and what we've done to the oceans themselves, it forces beneficial plankton deep into the ocean. These large destructive blooms sit over the top and force the rest of that plankton down deep where it is out of the sunlight and cannot function. And thanks to our decision to take as much of the wildlife off this planet as we could in a very short period of time, the one species, and its various members of that species of whale that are so important have been hunted near to extinction. Now, again, I don't say this to scare anybody, because if you're apt to being scared, you should already be afraid. You really should be. And I don't mean that in a mean way, in any sort of way at all. I really, really don't. It is done, however. The effects of what we have done in the last 60 years will last for the next 1,000. It's too late. There isn't a damn thing we can do to avoid what's coming. And we have to get that through our heads. And of course, the governments of the world and numerous parts of that power and control structure are counting on the fact that we're going to bury our heads in the sand. In the last 50 years, we have lost 1/2 of the world's wildlife. 1/2. The insect population on our planet, you want a figure that's going to blow your mind? Insects outweigh the whole of humanity by a factor of 1.7 to 1. That means if you were to take the mass of insects on the planet and put us beside it, the insects would tip the scale. Humanity would be sitting on the upside of that teeter-totter. We have reduced that loss, that amount of insect life, by roughly 25% in the last 30 years, and are currently witnessing a decline of 2.5% per year as of 2020. We are literally at the edge. The data contained in the third part of the report, and if you're interested in reading it for yourself, put away all sharp utensils first, and I will send the report to you. It is a report that will not be available to the whole world unless you go hunting for it. But I certainly have found a couple places where it is available, and it is vetted, And it comes directly from some of the member organizations themselves who believe that the data has to get out today. And the reason they do is because that data clearly projects 5 to 7 years. We have 5 to 7 years to stop every single carbon emission on the planet. That's it. If we don't do that, what we will have is hell on earth. And that hell on earth will last for centuries and centuries and centuries. And the people on the front line of this will be the poor, the senior citizens, the disenfranchised, those in first world or those in third world countries without the means, people who are literally innocent and not complicit in what's been done. They are the ones who are going to suffer the most. The world food supply, which is currently, as of 2020, doing very well, is about to undergo an abrupt reversal. And we're seeing it already reflected in the supermarkets. We're looking at the possibility of $1,000 a barrel gas or oil as we somehow try to move en masse away from fossil fuels in a very minuscule timeline. The real world numbers, the real world data that the third part of the report releases, unfortunately coincides with exactly what had been revealed to me, and that is essentially that we had roughly 5 years. And we had that discussion quite a while ago. I'm not pleased about it either, but this is where the species sits today. We have already profoundly altered this planet. She is forever changed. And we can take advantage of this still. But it's going to take a movement to awaken every person on this planet to the realization that we have to choose to change now. And the change we need to make right now is going to be painful. It's not going to be easy. And that change cannot be driven by the power and control structure. It cannot be driven by governments. It has to be driven by we, the people. One people, one humanity. Don't let anybody try to convince you that we are not at a level of threat greater than was ever perceived during the Cold War. And I lived through the Cold War. I remember what it was like. Now, of course, I was 2 years old in 1962 and didn't see certain parts of it, but right up through the 80s until it ended, it was always in people's minds. So what do we do? That's really the big question, and that's one of the reasons, I'm not here to preach doom, although I'm a realist, and I also receive what I can only say is information from sources with better information than I have outside of myself. And those things in those states of deep meditation reveal to me that, realistically, the larger part of the species is doomed. And the reason being is going to be our own attempts to preserve ourselves. We are on track to have roughly 200 million climate displaced, and we don't ever want to use the term refugee, okay? Because these people are imagine that number. 1 million refugees in the Syrian crisis literally put Europe into chaos. Imagine what it's going to be like to try to settle 200 million people. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. If we don't put up physical barriers, we are going to put up military and other sorts of barriers to prevent those people from reaching us. And the rest of the world is going to sit as people die of starvation, die of a lack of water, and suffer as we ourselves try to survive. That's where we're headed right now. I don't care whether you bought a new car. I don't care whether you got a concert planned to go to. I don't care how wonderful your outlook on your future is looking right now. I really don't. Because none of that is real. What's real is the crisis that we all face. And we have to start acting like it. You know, I put considerable time putting together that presentation regarding dealing with the forest fire burned out land. And I wrote myself a very well worded and succinct letter and sent it off to the government. And you know the sort of response I got? Zero response. The governments who are claiming to be allocating money for climate change right now are at the same time, if you go a little bit deeper behind the pages, participating in opening up new explorations for oil, natural gas, and we continue to steam on in the same old way. It's going to take an uprising of humanity on a global scale. And personally, I will do everything I can to make that happen. Not an uprising that's going to entail violence, but an uprising of compassion and caring. And we're going to need that more than ever. The reason I want to get this clear to you now is as always, you know, that titanium baseball bat, that front-loaded baseball bat that life likes to wield, that Shiva in that compassionate, destroying form of God, comes and whacks us over the head to knock us down. We realize at some minute when we manage to get back on our feet again with a new perspective, that indeed we knew that damn bat was coming. You have a 5 to 7 year window right now. You've been told straight out today, in no uncertain terms, that there's one hell of a wicked baseball bat aimed at the back of humanity's head, and there is no stopping it. What you choose to do in this next 5 to 7 years will be instrumental in your role in what's to play out for humanity. This is not an end to the planet. This is going to mean a lot of things, but it will not be the end. It will, however, be the end of our way of life. And it will be the end of a lot of us, no matter how much effort we make. Personally, it's a time to focus more and more on spreading that message of wholeness and oneness, of being willing to care for each other, and to be willing to hold those who are contributing to the continuation of what's happening accountable. Not out of hate, not out of anger, not out of a desire to do them any harm. And it's not like I don't fight it too. I still have a soldier side of myself that, you know, wants to pick up a rifle and put bullets in people's heads some days. Figuratively speaking, sort of. But that at the end of the day, that solves nothing. As always, we're being given choice. more and more and more that choice has become limited through our own actions. That's it. I know it's not a pleasant video, and I guess maybe that's a good thing right now. It really is. You know, I don't have my own kids. I don't have my own grandchildren. You know, but I see every child on this planet as one of my children. And it's not so far away that it's even the children. It's all of you here today who are likely still going to be alive 5 to 7 years ago. It's all of us right now. We're going to need each other like never before. We're going to have to remember what it means to truly see each other within each other. Contemplate this. Try to have a lovely evening in the other case. You are deeply loved. And if anyone's feeling really distraught, I truly do apologize. Have a good night.